10 o'clock, Friday, the 17th, 2019. You're listening to In All Fairness, a podcast about civil rights and liberties. I'm your host, Lucy Hall, and today we'll be discussing learning disabilities and autism in the American school system with Amanda Danson. Hi, hello, welcome. So, Amanda, you work in the special ed program in Knox County. What's that like?
I really love it. I mean, it's hard, but it's never boring. So actually, I co-teach classes with another teacher that have students of all ability levels, some with disabilities, some without. And in those classes, maybe 10 to 25% of the class would have a learning disability or autism or some other form of special needs. But the rest of the class would not have special needs. And so it's considered an inclusive environment.
And why did you choose to teach special ed?
Oh, well, that's kind of a long story, but when I was a sophomore in high school, I was actually just kind of randomly asked to babysit a young girl who had pretty significant special needs and a seizure disorder. And after that, it was just kind of the rest is history. I just loved it so much and couldn't imagine doing anything else. I felt a lot like myself when I was hanging out with her. Then just kind of the natural progression after high school when I was looking into college, I just felt like the natural choice to choose special ed. And then from there, loved student teaching and became a teacher.
So there's this act called the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, sure. So that's kind of like all we talked about in college, I feel like. It's the law that governs special ed in this country. So it really just applies to students until school age students until they age out of the school system. But it's literally the bedrock of special ed law, and it mandates and requires certain things like IEPs or individualized education programs and parental involvement and least restrictive environment, lots of things like that.
And are you happy with, or do you think that that is enough to protect the children that have these disabilities in the school system?
I think that IDEA is a great start, and I think that it's an important law and really vital that we have it. But it also hasn't been updated since 2004, so that's an issue in my mind. But all in all, I think it is a great law that has lots of room for improvement and lots of things that are left up to interpretation that become confusing at times. But all in all, yes, I like it.
Could you explain in a way that the IDEA might fall short for some students?
Well, IDEA requires that least restrictive environment, or LRE, is one of the hallmarks of IDEA, and it requires that students with disabilities, to the maximum extent appropriate, be educated like in the gen ed setting with their peers without disabilities. And I think that in my experience that has been taken too literally and has become synonymous with, oh, let's just put every student with special needs in classes that they might not actually be performing well in. So there's lots of debate around that, but I think that sometimes it's hard to take a law that's meant for lots of people and apply it to individual cases.
That's really interesting. So what protections might you propose that the government provide for people with disabilities that don't already exist?
Well, specifically, I think I don't know if I would amend IDEA to include past school age because it's an education act, but I would love to see more laws and protections for adults with disabilities once they age out of the school system, because I think as a country we do a great job while people are in school, and even young adults who can stay a little longer, but we just do not do a great job transitioning adults with disabilities, especially significant disabilities, into the workforce.
So what's the future like for a lot of these kids?
I think that a lot of young adults and children who are aging out of the school system they have great parents who are well educated and have great resources and know who to reach out to. But I think by and large, either the resources are overwhelmed or the parents don't know who to reach out to. And it's just the future doesn't look great for a lot of young adults who age out of the school system, and they don't have any sort of supported employment or any sort of purpose during the day, and it just isn't great.
Well, thank you for being on. The Individuals with Disabilities Act will celebrate its 30th year as a part of U.S. law in 2020, but many still argue that the protections given to the disabled are not enough. Thank you for listening to In All Fairness.